Thanks, that's all for today.
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 Thank you, that's all for today.
Thanks, that's all for today.
Thanks, that's all for today.
Thanks, that's all for today.
Hello and welcome back to episode 3 of Thanks, That's All For Today, a podcast hosted by me, Harriet Mullen. Welcome back. I hope you've been loving season 2 so far, and I can now officially reveal, it's like the X Factor results, I can now reveal that we have 5 more episodes to go, not including this one. How exciting. Many thanks to my last guest, Mr. Alex Patmore, for a fantastic episode. And speaking of fantastic episodes, are you ready for episode 3? On today's episode, we have an incredible actor of stage and screen and theatre, writer and my childhood friend, Afsaneh Dehrouyeh. Watch me get so nervous in front of my friend who I've known since I was 13. Hello and welcome back to this next episode of Thanks, That's All Today, a podcast about the good, the bad and the hilarious auditions with me, your host, Harriet Mullen. I carried that on for ages there. I never do that much of a long intro.
That's all today, but your podcast title is That's All for Today. That's my first note.
Wait, what?
You said that's all today. I just thought I'd rather tell you than you listen back and go, oh shit.
Why didn't you tell me?
Yeah.
Okay, there's no honesty like your mum's honesty, but also there's no honesty like a friend you've known since you were 13.
Again, but better.
Hello and welcome to this next episode of Thanks, That's All for Today with me, your host, Harriet Mullen. And today we have a fantastic actor with us today. It's Afsaneh Dehrouyeh. And she is a really old... She's a really old woman. She's a very dear old friend of mine. Doesn't mean she's old. I've just known her for 14 years plus, a very long time. So this intro is actually being re-recorded for about the 16th time because I want to do her justice, okay? She has studied and been a graduate from Goldsmiths University in London and also the International School of Screen Acting. She studied in New York and in London and graduated with a screening at BAFTA. That's impressive. That is impressive. When you win your BAFTA, please give me a shout out. Yeah, thank you, hon. So she has been involved in a variety of projects, including the award-winning feature film Frasier. She was also in season 3 of Fox 21st's Tyrant by the Homeland creators and has co-written her own short film, Only Human, and starred in it as well and hired me to do costume. Thank you very much for that. You may have also seen her in Doctors, as well as an upcoming short film for Film 4 called Digging. How did I do?
Fantastic.
I really tried there. I really focused. I thought, stop being excited, just focus. And you've also got another film coming out on BBC Films. Can you tell me about that?
So it's for BBC Films. I don't know when, I have no idea when it will be out, but was lucky enough to actually work in the pandemic, which was great. Once testing was available. So it's a feature for BBC Films and Mark Rylance is playing the main character. So it's a biopic about a man called Maurice Flitcroft, who wanted to become a professional golfer and managed to get his way into the US Open.
Oh.
And it's about his whole family, really. And
obviously they picked you because you're so great at golf, aren't you, hun?
I am known to be quite a golfer, yeah.
In fact, that was my next credit for you. Impressive golfer.
Absolutely.
Yeah, very
I've
impressive.
Starred on Spotlight. Actually,
yeah, highly skilled. That means for anyone who isn't on Spotlight, highly skilled. So hi, Afsaneh, or Affs, as I call you. It's so lovely to see you. How have you been during this crazy time?
I'd say up and down is the best way to put it. Like everyone, I think it's crazy to think that we've been living with this situation for a whole year now.
I know.
And it's nearly it's gonna be a year since the first lockdown on Tuesday. I think something I actually really enjoyed in the first lockdown, I kind of just thought, when as an actor do you ever get space to switch off that part of your brain that's always thinking about the next thing, what audition they're focusing on? We've always got that, no matter whether we're in a job, we know what's next, we have no idea when the next thing is coming. There's always this part of your brain. And even in Christmas, when you know things have shut down for a week or so, there's that anticipation. And because we just had no idea how long the situation was going to go on for, I just went, I'm just going to enjoy the fact that I can live for a little bit with this part of my brain switched off.
Definitely. Because if you're not thinking about what's coming next, you're thinking, why am I not auditioning when I've just seen this brief on Spotlight I'd like to be in? So it was nice to just have, I agree with you, nothing, like no pressure, just take some time off.
Yeah. And just enjoy other ways to be creative. And like, there, you know, as it went on, I really missed being on set, and like I started just kind of finding my own tapes to do with my housemate and stuff like that, to just kind of keep creative. But I didn't want to get sucked into the whole chaos of how do I use this time to like set up a meeting with this casting director and what's going on Spotlight. I just actually wanted to shut off from it. And I think it also really helped me connect back to why I love doing what we do so much and the craft of it, rather than getting caught up with all the industry politics of it all.
Yeah, definitely.
Like I just missed the love of doing it. So yeah, it was nice.
You were great for me because you branched out before the lockdown into EFT training, hadn't you? And so we had a session when I was desperately trying to learn the piano in the first lockdown. One of those people that was like, hang on, what can I learn? And I had such a good session with you. It was amazing. And so is that something that you ventured into because of the unpredictability of the industry? Or is it just something that came about because you'd experienced good things from it or had read about it or whatever? Or was it just literally to keep that mind active in periods of downtime and fun employment, I like to call it?
I definitely say that deciding to start training and being able to give EFT myself was something that came from the unpredictability of being an actor, for sure. In 2019, I just had the rockiest year with acting stuff. And I was just in such a down place with it. And I went through a phase of kind of, you know, like in Friends when Chandler decides to quit his job and he's like start, like it was almost like Monica makes him like portfolios. Like I went on a full-on thinking about so many careers and like looking at all these different masters. And the challenge was always finding something that would work alongside it, something that meant I could still keep my flexibility. And that's the hard thing. Like if that wasn't the case, it would just be so much easier to try and pick like a second career. But it was, it was just never been about wanting to stop acting. So it's always about, finding something flexible enough. And psychotherapy, EFT, it's a huge interest of mine that's grown so much. And that was another thing I actually, in the second lockdown, I did a certificate like at uni.
Amazing.
But it ended up being on Zoom, so all my lectures and everything were on Zoom in psychotherapy. And I think that, in a different world, that's maybe like a path I would follow, but it's just not something, you can't have clients and then suddenly next week be like, sorry babes, I'm going to Barcelona for a job, good luck with your mental health, bye.
Yeah.
It's not going to work. But really nice to, like, the more I've kind of put myself into other interests and just explored other avenues and disconnected from just being, because I feel like so much of my identity for so many years has just been about being an actor, the more kind of content I've been. And actually I think the more my acting work has actually improved, and the jobs that are coming in have been nicer actually.
about sliding door moments with my dad quite a lot, and moments where I go, if that hadn't have happened, then this wouldn't have happened. And I genuinely think that sitting with you before the Fame audition, so a bit of background for anyone who isn't from Cheltenham, at the Cheltenham Playhouse is a company called Theatre Studio, who I now work for, and me and Affie grew up there. Affie had been there since she was about 5, and I started when I was 13, 14. And they do a massive Easter school every year for the kids. Everyone's under 18, and it's a full-scale show in a week with costumes, lights, on the stage, ticketed audiences. You do about 5 performances in that week, and it is literally the highlight of the year. Like, I used to count down the nights. I remember going to TGI Fridays the night before we started Fame and thinking, this is the life.
We definitely thought we were mini celebs, didn't we?
We did.
We totally did.
We did. And basically, I went to the auditions for Fame at 13, 14. And I said to Affie, I'm just going to audition for ensemble. And Affie was like, why? You're here all day on the Sunday. You might as well audition for a lead. And I was like, no. I was like, no, I'm not going to get a lead. And you were like, well, yeah, you probably won't, but you might as well audition. Like, you might get a few lines or something then. So Affie auditioned for, if anyone knows the show, Serena Katz, who is one of the leading ladies. She's training to be an actor at the Fame School. And then I auditioned for Carmen, who sings Fame and is like this fiery, fabulous character. We both auditioned for those roles and ended up being offered the roles, but reversed. So I was offered Serena and Affie was offered Carmen. And I know it sounds silly because I was like 14 and whatever, and I'm like, there's a sliding door moment. But if I hadn't have done Fame, there's no way I think I would be in the arts, because I mean, I like to think I could do a bit of acting and singing, and I like performing for my family. But it was that week that really changed for me how I saw the job itself. And it was the rehearsals, you know what it's like, Affie. It was like 9 a.m. till 6 p.m, like real life theatre training.
Yeah. Can I also just say, whilst we were meant to be doing GCSE revision?
Yeah, I know. I think I did them every year, including my A-levels. And I was doing it for fun at the time, obviously, but it genuinely ignited something in me to do this as my career. So thank you, Afsaneh, for encouraging me to audition. We had such a good week, and we were so sad when it was over. Do you remember we went to accessorize and bought matching rings?
Oh my God. Yeah. that
So much.
I think that moment for me was actually when I was in year 6 at school. We did Oliver and I was Bet. It's not even that big part, but what I felt on stage made me go, I want to feel like this forever. And I think it was my first kind of, like, you watch stuff, so you know acting's a job on some level, but you don't really think, oh, that's actually a profession I could do. And I think as soon as I realized it was, I was like, this is what I want to do. And it just never, like, whatever else kind of came my way, it's just ended up being like my everlasting love, I think. But I remember, like, I think because I'd done Playhouse for so long, and my mum put me in Theatre Studio because I was a really shy, introverted kid. But I think I secretly loved it. But like, I think you wouldn't have really been able to tell. I think I probably came across more, especially younger, as one of the kids that was there because their mums put them there, kind of thing.
Right.
And I think once it got to Fame and we were finally at an age where, like, it was possible to get a bigger part, it was like getting that part felt like a validation that I think as a kid, like as a teenager, I was really, really craving. And once I got it and got to kind of live that lifestyle for a week, it was just like a year. I know, it's so ridiculous, isn't it? We're literally talking about like an Easter school musical, but like, what's so lovely about it, Harriet, is that really when you think about like the feelings and why you loved it, how it felt, like the collaboration process, the creativity of it, it's everything we still feel now in our late 20s, why we're still doing it, which is so 100%. Lovely to think about, actually. But yeah, but I remember, like, I think it felt so painful when it ended, because I remember feeling so overwhelmed by this like this thought of, what if that's the only time I ever get to do this and no one will ever let me do it again? And I remember really feeling like that and feeling so upset.
Well, I remember as soon as it had finished, I was like, right, summer school's coming up. And you were like, Harriet, we might not get the leads again. And I was like, no, you're not getting the leads again. I wish I was that confident now. So let's get into a game about audition styles. I'm going to ask you a series of would you rather, basically, and then we'll have a little chat and then we'll play a couple more games. But I would like to ask you, first of all, in this game, do you prefer TV/film auditions versus theatre auditions?
Oh, if I had to pick, I'd say TV film, but ultimately it's really just depends on the script.
Mm-hmm.
I'd way rather be doing a script that I really, really believe in with a role that I absolutely love, and I'm going, I want to do this and smash this.
What's your major difference, would you say, between theatre and TV? Because I know you are primarily TV and film, but I do know off the record a couple of major musicals you've auditioned for, which are just incredible shows. What would you say, as a mainly TV and theatre actor, what is the difference between the audition processes?
There's something about theatre, especially musical theatre, that feels, for me personally, more cutthroat. I think, like, when I see the groups of people waiting to go into a musical theatre audition and how bluntly they kind of come out and they're like, you guys go, like, I just, like, my experience has been that TV film casting directors have been a bit softer. And in terms of preparation, like with a play script, I'll familiarize as much as possible, but kind of still have it in my hand, and never kind of, they've always kind of just said, familiarize yourself, don't worry about learning it, and I never have. Whereas with TV film, I would never do that, because you want to keep your eyes up, and them to see what you're doing on camera.
Definitely. Are there more rounds, would you say, for theatre compared to TV? Or can you get that sort of job where you are in 8 or 9 rounds for a television role? Or is it quite a quick turnaround?
It's really unlikely that there would be that many rounds. And
right.
I definitely think that because the industry is starting to move at a faster pace, and we're getting more streaming services, and they're wanting to bring out content faster, which I think it's starting to it feels a little bit like things are getting too rushed now in terms of like quality, I think, which is a shame. But like, I'm hearing, people booking a huge role in a next Netflix job, but they've literally did one self-tape. Yeah.
Wow.
But it's amazing to know that can happen.
Yeah. Wow.
Oh yeah.
What a good self-tape that must have been.
I know, right?
So let's go back to the game. Cold read versus prepared. You've kind of just already answered that.
Definitely prepared.
Defo. Panel versus one-to-one.
One-to-one. Panel sounds so scary to me because it's not what I'm familiar with. But I'd say my favorite is just being in a screen casting with lines that I've prepared, come with some ideas, and just me and the casting director getting to have a play. That's my fave, I would say.
Lush. Okay. Oh, go on.
Oh, I was just going to say, actually, before that, I would say chemistry read, because I just have so much more fun working with another actor than,
So is that after you've done a first round, the chemistry read? So that would be like them picking like a couple of their favorites and putting them together, just for anyone who doesn't know.
Yes. So normally I'll have done a couple of rounds. Maybe sometimes they've just done one round and then picked and done a chemistry read. It's normally, for me, been a situation where I don't really get seen for love interest. So I've not had like romantic chemistry reads to kind of see if you bounce off each other and look right as a couple or anything like that. But it's just been the kind of main named actor coming in to read with you, and maybe reading with like 3 other actors.
Have you ever had to read with anyone famous?
Not crazy famous, like known people, but not like Leonardo DiCaprio.
That would be nice, wouldn't it? Leo in the 90s, though, I think I would prefer.
Oh, definitely.
You know me, if I meet somebody that's famous or I've seen them on TV or anything, I'm like, hello. It would be very uncool.
Sing in front of Jerry Halliwell, and I'd say that's pretty good. I'd say that's pretty impressive to sing in front of Jerry Halliwell and keep it together. You were unbelievable.
Thank you, Angel. It's probably because I'm short-sighted, so I didn't know where she was in the 100. Okay, do you, because obviously acting is your sort of main discipline, but if you had a dance or singing call in a, for a theatre production or TV, if they had that, like La La Land, filmed musical, what would you prefer to do, a dance or singing call?
Definitely singing. 100%.
100p. And I don't know if this is applicable to TV, but do you ever have to have a group audition? Because my next question is group audition versus solo.
Solo audition. I've only ever had a group audition for TV once, and it was because they were putting together a friendship group.
Right.
I remember thinking this feels like a musical theatre audition because everyone had they'd done self-taping as the first round. I got called back, and it was a TV show. I think they called me in for 3 different parts, and every time I got close, and then and then it didn't work out. But the last time it kind of got into smaller parts. They were putting together a friendship group, and the kind of leader of the friendship group was a really lovely named actor who was one of the parts I'd originally been seen for. But I remember thinking, this feels like I'm in like a X Factor putting a girl band together, because it was literally like they were looking for 3 girls. There were 9 of us in the morning. 3 people would go in at once. We'd come out, sit down, and the casting director would come out and go, like, call someone over and go, you can go home. Until at the end of the day, there was just 4 of us left, and one person wasn't getting a part. We all went in, and I was that one person.
Oh, Affs, no.
And I think it was just like, I was so hopeful because like we'd been chatting all day, and nobody else had kind of had this situation that I'd had where I kept getting called in. And obviously that gives you the confidence of like, they don't really like me. They're just kind of trying to find somewhere to put me. But I understand, like this is the thing, when you first start out, you don't realize this stuff. So it's so much easier to take it personally. But now visually, as a whole, it's an entire story. And I can see how as a director, you would have put the other 3 girls together in a group. Like I can see it, and I can kind of go, yeah, I understand. Like I would have made the same choice, but it's so hard at the beginning when you don't know that. You're just like, well, it wasn't good enough,
Definitely. Would you rather audition for a known series or a brand new original series?
Known.
Cool.
Yeah, I would say known. I think there's something so like exciting about an unknown and the possibilities. Like I know Emilia Clarke said that when she like did the first season of Game of Thrones, even though it was HBO and it was, based on these novels, she just didn't have a clue. And then suddenly it became the biggest show that there could possibly be for 10 years. I think there's something so exciting about that. But the part of me that's got to this stage of just kind of wanting more sense of security would love to have that guarantee of knowing it was a show that was doing really well, that was going to get you more exposure to then be able to get in rooms that you're maybe not getting in now. So I'm going to go with the safer option and say no.
Go for it. Season 2 of a known show, so that hasn't developed too.
Putting it out there. Netflix, if you can hear me, I am available.
Now, would you rather as well work for someone like Netflix or a smaller independent company that's putting together a short film or a series? What would be the major difference, would you say, between working for that kind of like massive budget compared to maybe a crowdfunded indie project?
I would say that the difference is that the higher the budget, I think that the harder the production have to work to not lose sight of the story that they want to tell and the nuance of it, and not get lost in kind of having the budget to make it as big as possible and then losing the importance of connection, like connection to an audience. And I think indie, it makes sense for it to be more the other way around, but we don't see it like that because Hollywood just recycles what they know is going to make money, right? So we just see the same stories over and over again, whereas independent cinema go, what stories aren't being told, let's tell those stories. And then they tend to come from somebody who is really passionate and connected to that story, and when you're telling something that you really believe in, I think an audience connect to it, whereas Hollywood is more kind of, can just be about making the dollar bills.
And do you find that you being writing your own stuff and being a writer yourself, which I didn't touch on in your credits, but being a writer, how do you feel about performing your material versus somebody else's? Do you think you could ever be as connected to a character that you haven't written for? Or do you sometimes read somebody's, character and think, oh my God, you wrote that like it was written for me?
Yes. My favorite is actually something else that someone's written, that it almost feels like they've brought something to life that I've been searching for and not been able to quite say myself. Right. Those scripts that come through, and they're precious and far and few, but I'd say that's my favorite. I think writing, and like I write less and less, but I think I went through a stage of it feeling just like when I was acting, and when I wasn't acting, I just wanted to be delving in other things that felt completely separate to my industry. That's what I was really craving. If I went back to writing, I don't feel so focused on wanting to be in it, I think, necessarily. Although we're seeing more and more of kind of an era, which is amazing and so exciting, of like, Fleabag and women kind of doing their own stuff and starting with one-woman shows and them going to incredible, BAFTA winning places now, which is amazing. So yeah, it's tricky because I believe so much, and I'm so in awe of actors that take a situation into their own hands and go, the material's not here, I'm going to write it myself. But I just feel like for me right now, it feels like it needs to be separate. I think I like something I could work on maybe for myself is not feeling so attached to it, and so that would then help me. So like not feeling attached to, not being able to see it as an entire story and serving the story as best I can, rather than what is everything I want to put in a part that I haven't done before, that I want to be able to invent and do and show people I can do,
With the theatre that you have done, what would you say has been your favourite thing that you do in theatre that you can't do in TV and film?
My favourite thing is making me feel a bit. Thing is looking at an audience and being able to look at them and feel that kind of connection with them instantly, like seeing them moved, seeing someone crying as you're there and you're talking to them. I mean, that's not something you get. I also think, I don't know if it's something to do with my material, but like I've been in screenings where I've then spoken to audience members afterwards and had the most amazing conversations with people that have resonated with it. But there's nothing like getting off stage from a piece of theatre that you really believe in, and someone you can see has just been crying their eyes out and feels understood in a way that they've just not seen on stage before, for example, and giving you a hug and just feeling so understood.
Definitely.
When I've been at a screening and we've just watched something that I've been in, and then, for example, like I can think of a time, then I've queued up to use the toilet afterwards, and there's a queue of people, and people have this moment where they turn around and they're like, you're the girl from the film. It's like, I think they're still trying to process that in a different way to when they've already seen you physically.
Yeah, they've seen
never
you
thought about
bare
it
your
like-
soul in the same room, but then they've seen you on a screen do it, and they're like, that is more disconnect. It's more of a disconnect, isn't there?
Yeah, totally. Maybe it does like in that way offer more of an attachment. I've never thought about it like that before. It's interesting.
Do you prefer to audition for comedy or serious roles?
I'm loving comedy at the moment, so I'm going to go with comedy. I'm loving comedy at the moment. I'm hoping, like, I'm getting more comedy now, which is so nice. Like, it just feels like a breath of fresh air compared to the castings that I would get when I first started auditioning. And I think, like, as I start to get more drama, I think I'm getting pickier about the drama that I get, because I'm being more conscious of saying no to the stereotypes, and the dramas for me are normally the stereotypes for like post 9/11 brown actor stories, and I'm just so over it, and it's not going to change unless we start saying no.
And are you finding that things are changing?
I think it's changing more and more, like, for sure. Like, there's castings I'm getting now that there's just no way I would have got. And like, the lovely thing about the couple of jobs that I got at the end of last year was that it just felt like I'm finally in a place where I can, like, I'm working in jobs where the name isn't specified, like like the last character I played, her name was Josie. And I remember a time where I used to say, about 5 years ago, when I just felt so frustrated, and I used to say, I just want to get to a stage where I can just play a girl called Katie, and it's not, it doesn't matter. And I think we're finally getting there. Like, I got a casting, I did a self-tape last weekend, and I remember when I got the sides through and the information through from my agent, I actually felt so emotional when I got it, because it was a period piece, like a Regency drama, and it's not Bridgerton, but I think Bridgerton is going to change things, which is really exciting.
Definitely.
But like, I just remember thinking, like, this is insane. Like, this never even felt like an option for me. Like, when I was training, you had like the English roses that would get told, you should be going for Downton Abbey. And then with me, it was like, you'll do, like, I remember one of my teachers used to say to me, if you're happy to play a terrorist, you'll do really well.
What the hell?
Yeah. And but the thing that makes that more annoying is that I then, in Tyrant, my character gets radicalized and she joins the caliphate, and she becomes a suicide bomber. But then it became a situation where apparently he was then saying to the following year group that I would hear from them, oh, I said to Afsaneh, and look, now she's doing really well. And it was so frustrating that it became something that was kind of justified, and actually I didn't have a clue that my arc line was going that way when I took the job. And that doesn't really matter, in the sense that at that time I still think I would have taken the job. And I think that says a lot for the fact we weren't being shown that there were any other options. Like, so yeah, I mean, to answer your question, I think that it is changing. I think we're finally getting the permission to be listened to. I think we've been having these conversations for such a long time in our circles, and we're finally being heard and paid attention to. And it almost feels like a permission to like, it shouldn't be the case, but it does feel like permission to be angrier. But I think in that space, coming forward now, it feels like now we've got to say no. Like, this is our time to kind of, say no to those jobs, and just be more aware of it.
So I would like to play another game with you. This is called Rituals, and it's all about things that you do before and after. So I've got to ask you, first of all, do you have any superstitions before or after an audition? This is for anything, TV, film, theatre.
Do I have any superstitions? No, I wouldn't generally say I'm a superstitious person.
No, I don't think you
No,
are.
no.
Shit question from me, seeing as I've known you for so long and I know you're not.
It was more me going, maybe I'm, I'm a bit boring here. My answer is no.
No, but when we were younger, we did say that singing in the stairwell of the theatre brought us luck. So I think we used to do that a couple of times. Like every year we'd go and stand there and sing. I still think of you when I go up that staircase. I still think this is where Affie.
It's weird to think you still go up it all the time. Whereas if I went in that building now, I'd be like, oh my God. It's amazing that you're there teaching.
I do love it. It's got so many lovely memories there. Are you an overthinker after an audition, or are you a forget about it?
My completely honest answer is that it totally depends how my mental health is.
Good answer.
So if I'm in a like I can actually think of like this already, the last 3 months being a good example of this, actually, because at the beginning of this third lockdown, I was at home living at my mum's, and I was self-taping in my mum's bedroom with a friend on FaceTime, not being able to have them in my eyeline, having them in the corner. It was a new year. Lockdown felt very kind of muffled, and I felt just so creatively flat, and I was doubting myself so much in between the takes, so in my head. And I found that when I'd finish, I got into like a play, like I would just think about it too much. And like I had too much space to be thinking about the jobs and that kind of thing. And you kind of have to give yourself a break sometimes and just allow yourself to be human, you know? So yeah, I'd say I go back and forth. Whereas like right now I feel in a much better place of going on to the next one, you know?
Definitely. Yeah. Very healthy way to think about it.
There is a ritual, actually, I just thought of. If I've had a tape or in the room, I will rip up the sides and say something kind of affirming to myself about letting it go. And then I will put it in a recycling bin and out of my house. So it is gone. And it just helps me completely forget about it and detach from it.
Oh my God, there's you being like, I don't have any rituals or superstitions. That is a brilliant one that I'm actually going to steal.
Go for it. It really does help because you're physically doing something.
Oh my God, that's
detach from it.
Do you know what as well? I was thinking if you do a tape, you could just delete it afterwards. You know, the same kind of thing. And
yeah, and I know people that do, but I mean, I still have I used to do that, and now I have my Dropbox where all my tapes are, which is how I send them to my agent, and they're all there. And like maybe once a year I'll go through them and go, what could I have done differently now I've kind of progressed? And like it kind of just helps me see sometimes if I feel like I'm stuck or I'm in a lull, okay, this is how I can see I've improved, or like. And sometimes it's really comforting because you'll watch something and go, do you know what? There was nothing more like I could have done. I just didn't get it because someone else didn't. It's quite like sometimes it helps with confidence. And then in other ways, it just feels like you can give yourself some constructive time to kind of learn.
Oh, I'm writing all this down. Good advice. She's on it with the advice today. Do you call anyone after or beforehand?
Definitely not before. I definitely like to have just like quiet space before, and maybe put on a piece of music that feels like it's connected to the character or the piece that I'm going in for, or I'll listen to like podcast that makes me feel more confident about what I'm doing maybe. And then afterwards I will maybe call. I'd say if I call anyone, it's my friend Rosa.
Rosa, who called you earlier?
Yeah.
Hiya, Rosa.
Rosa called me on.
How do you no, that's not the question. Are you secretive about your auditions, or are you a tell-all?
I would say I don't make an effort to keep it a secret, but I definitely don't like telling people. So a housemate or two might know because they might have run lines with me. I mean, a housemate or whoever did a take with me will definitely know. And then like if I get a recall, I'll definitely say like, thanks so much for helping me. I got a recall or that kind of thing. But I don't, and family, I definitely don't tell.
No, okay. They
Just
get so excited.
Yeah, because that moment where I have to tell them it didn't go that way is just, it breaks my heart. So I'd just rather be able to give them good news when it comes, and otherwise they have no idea what's going on, basically.
I love your family. Or your mum. I can imagine telling your mum that like you didn't get something. She would be like, "Oh, Afsaneh, she'd be so sad." So yeah, let's save it. Let's not tell your mama. Are you an early bird or are you cutting it fine?
Definitely early bird, because I would just get way too flustered. I prefer to just like know I'm in the area half an hour before and walk around with some music in or something. Or like, and I always like to be able to know I've got time to go and go to the toilet before.
Yeah,
and make sure, like especially in the summer when you've been on the tube and you're just like the sweat everywhere, you just want that time to kind of. And I might do. Look, I said I didn't have rituals, but there definitely are things. I guess I was thinking more about them being superstitious.
Yeah, I should have said I should have said rituals.
But like, I might like, I got this from a friend, actually. I have a friend that, I mean, I think this is amazing. I don't do it to this extent, but I think it's incredible that she does. But she'll go to the bathroom before an audition, like get into the cubicle, and then she'll just like cheer like she's already got the job. Yeah.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Do something like say some kind of words of affirmation to give myself confidence and just feel grounded and calm down. And then maybe do some like power poses. If I'm feeling in a place of like self-doubt, I'll definitely do EFT 100%.
Amazing. I am literally going to be doing all of this in 2021. I'm going to be texting you like, I've just cheered myself in the cubicle. I've just Googled EFT just to see if I can try and attempt it on myself. And I have just ripped up my script. So for myself too.
Amazing.
Hello everybody, it's me, Editing Harriet. I haven't made an appearance for a while, but it's me, I'm back. Just because I had to just insert a clip here and say, we interrupt this podcast with an announcement from our creator. Do people say that? I think people say sponsors, but I'm not there yet, but maybe one day somebody sponsor me. Anyway, what I was going to say was I actually tried this tip/trick before an audition, my first audition back after a year, and it really helped me. So thanks, Affie and her friend. Anyway, now back to the podcast.
Me and my housemate went through a phase of doing that script bin thing, but we would actually play Thank You Next in our ears as well at the same time.
Oh, that's so good. You know, I love that song. Oh, that's amazing. Amazing. So what is or do you have a go-to monologue, or is it always something different in your audition situations?
It would probably be good for me to have a couple of kind of monologues in a portfolio that are like go-tos for me. I think I've got to a stage where I should really do that with songs as well, but I don't have any, and it's just because I don't remember last time I got asked to do a monologue. No, I never got asked to do a monologue, so it's never something I think about, but I should definitely have some songs in the bank.
Trying to choose a song for an audition, oh my God, it's so stressful. I'd rather be sent material. I think that's what's quite nice about film and TV auditions, is that they send you the material and then you know you haven't, because that's part of the problem, is knowing that you might have prepared the wrong type of song. So with theatre and with plays, or television and film, you know that when they've sent you the material, they want to see that material. Do you wear anything character based when you go to an audition, or do you just go blank canvas, or do you go Afsaneh?
I'll definitely give a nod. Like I give a nod to the character, I would say. And I'll of course think of things like, if it was Marvel, I know that they athletics is going to be taken into consideration. So I'll think about wearing like a strappy top. Like I'm not going to go in with a baggy jumper, for example.
Right.
So yeah, just little things like that. But I think the main thing over giving a nod to the character for me is just like something that feels flattering, that I feel confident in, because that's the main thing that's going to affect what you're doing in the room. So yeah, for me anyway.
Fabulous, darling. Okay, amazing. You've passed with flying colours. I've got to ask you, Affie, we've got to the point of the exercise, I was going to say. Got to the point where we're going to do some exercise. Got to the point of the podcast. I need to start that again. So we've got to the part of the podcast. I can't speak. So we've got to the... Can you say it for me? We've got to the part of the podcast.
We've got to the part of the podcast.
Thanks, Affie. Where we're going to talk about audition stories. Now, do you have any standout stories that you can tell me about? The good, the bad, the hilarious, the shocking, the surprising? Have you got anything you could talk to us about?
Yeah, I've probably got a bit of all of them up my sleeve. The only thing I think like it would just be like for anecdote's sake, I don't have many like funny ones.
That's okay. That's a good
It's
thing.
like they're just like really positive experiences or negative experiences. I once had an audition where the director already knew me and I'd actually already worked with the director before. And I sat down to start my take and he said, "You've put on weight." Yeah. And obviously I was so in my head and felt like complete crap like when we did it. And she was meant to be quite a confident person. And I just did not feel, I felt so I mean, literally put the camera on me and then looked into the camera and like looked at the frame and went, "You've put on weight."
First of all, that is so bloody rude. Oh my God. And second of all, just before an audition as well.
Yeah, I know. I think I'd say I had a really bad experience with men when I came in to work like into this industry professionally. Like
really?
Yeah, like agent, like I can think of a couple of directors, like so there was him. There was another one, I'm going to be as vague as I can in like what the job was, but I had a job where the director was really controlling about my weight and what I was eating and would try to like make sure I had salad for lunch when everyone else had, you know, whatever they wanted.
Seriously?
Yeah. Like,
oh my God.
It was just, it was messy and on so many different levels, but
that is awful.
And actually that film went to a film festival and, you know, like by then I'd had a year of space from him. And I think in being able to process, I'd learned like that whole filming experience, I'd realized how controlling of a human being he was. And I'd learned so much about like what kind of directors I want to work with and why I do this job. Like I don't really want to be directed like that again if possible. I don't really want to, because we're not puppets. And so I don't think that directing and making a piece of film or theatre is about going on this line, move the cup here, and then when you say this, turn your head here. And it was just technical to that point so that he could be kind of in control as much as possible.
It's also an abuse of power.
Exactly.
Any personal comments should not come into it. Anything about the way you look or your personal life or your, you know, your weight or your health or anything. Oh my God, that is just awful. It's awful.
Exactly.
In other news, have you got any positive ones that you can think of?
I think the positivity for me, like it just comes from the ones where you go out and I'd say like my favorite thing is coming out and going, I did everything I could do. It's just the nicest feeling and it's so much easier to let go of it and just go, if I get it, amazing. If not, I trust that like whatever is going to come instead, you know, that kind of thing. I actually think like my Tyrant audition is probably still one of my favorites just because I had so much trauma going on in my personal life when I got it, that I got that casting and it was so last minute. Like I got it at 5 p.m. the night before and I was in at 10 a.m. the next day. It was so quick.
I remember.
And it meant I didn't really have time to kind of think about what it might mean if I got it. All I could do was kind of prepare, but I just channeled, like it was one of those ones where everything that was going on with you could channel in into the piece. The hardest thing is when you're in a space that's so different to the material, to the point where it's just not quite clicking, and you like there's only so much you can fake it, and it's not quite the same when you do, and that's so tricky. And I think that's something I'm still kind of working on balancing, because I just I believe so much in kind of like the whole toxic positivity thing. I think it's becoming more and more dangerous, and I think it's such a huge thing in the acting world, I think, because we're told, forget about it when it's finished, and don't put like negative thoughts out there and all this stuff. But then what are we suppressing? And that gets more and more dangerous. So it's like balancing feeling whatever comes up, and if that's totally the opposite to the material going into, how do you kind of shift it? So yeah, that's something I feel like there's just something in that I'm still like that's like my thing right now that I'm kind of exploring and learning more about, I'd say.
So Affs, I want to talk to you before we do a final game just about your training and how things have changed for you now. What do you think is the biggest difference between, auditioning back then, only 2 years ago, to auditioning now? What's the biggest difference?
I would say, the biggest difference from my experiences is the material that I'm getting, that it's less and less stereotyped again. I would say I'm someone that for what we do, or started auditioning quite late, just because when I was in sixth form, I think I didn't really believe in myself. I didn't believe in myself that I could do this as a job. And I think I was probably a teenager that really needed one cheerleader that said to them, you can do this. And I just didn't have that at the time, and I didn't have the capacity to give it to myself. So I actually ended up going to uni quite last minute, and Goldsmiths was only on there with another uni because of other drama school kind of that were on UCAS. But what I actually did was print out a load of application forms for drama schools, fill them out and put them in the bin. I never went, and I never did it.
Never knew that.
Yeah, my fear of failure was so huge, and it felt like if I had been given no's, I wouldn't have been able to see it as, right, it's just a really hard thing to kind of crack into, especially as an 18-year-old, and I'll try again. It would have just been complete validation of, no, you're right, you can't do this, and we are more people that don't believe that you should be doing this. And that's how I ended up going to uni. Thank God I put Goldsmiths, and I don't regret the path that I ended up going on, but that's how it started.
Bloody hell, I had no idea. I just thought, Affie's going to go off and do drama. I'm going to go to drama school. It didn't end up going, but I had no idea. I honestly thought Affie's gone to London. She's going to do 3 years at Goldsmiths, and, then you went on to study and, go to New York. And I would never have known that you'd ripped up application forms.
Yeah, I didn't try, and I didn't send anything.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you still became an actor, Affs.
I know. Because I think I always knew inside of me that it was what I was meant to be doing. I didn't have the confidence to vocalize that to anybody else. I remember being sat in a parents' evening, and this was GCSE, so it was year 11, about to go into A levels, and my drama teacher, who was a really lovely man, nothing bad to say about him, and totally understand that it was just coming from a place of love, of trying to warn me of the reality of how difficult it really can be. But I remember him saying to me, all this stuff felt like he was trying to put me off, and maybe as a test, but all this stuff about how brutal it really is, and percentages and all that kind of thing. And then he said, if it's something that you really, really want to, drama school, something you really, really want to try, then tell me, and I'll do everything that I can to help you. And I just didn't have the confidence to say back, yeah, it is. I needed someone to tell me, I believe you can do this, which isn't about anyone else. It's about how I felt in myself, obviously. And then not because of that, but I just ended up moving sixth form for other reasons. And I was really excited to move to that school for the drama department too. And loved my drama teachers there as well. But it was like the same thing in year 13 where like I had one of my drama teachers, like an amazing woman, but just so kind of like really wanted to test and like be honest about how hard it was. And like I just totally took it as she just doesn't think that I can do it. And I just and I didn't have like my home wasn't like a supportive like we believe, do this. It was like, why do you want to do this and not be a doctor, like typical Middle Eastern, which I totally again understand. It's because they love you and they want you to have security and a comfortable life. It's all from a place of love. But as a teenager, you're just like, why doesn't anyone want me to do what I love? And I don't think that I had the skin to have dealt with that audition process at that age. I don't think. I was still such a shy kid. I probably then, when I was in the material, that's when a different side kind of came out of me. But I think the interview kind of process would have shattered me. I mean, even so, when I was in third year of uni, I did a couple of drama school auditions for screen acting masters. So I did drama at uni, all kind of different aspects of theatre performance, behind the scenes, lots of theory based work too. And it's funny because I got there and there were so many students that said, oh, I tried for drama school and didn't get in, so I thought I'll do a degree and then I'll try again when we finish. And honestly, by the end of the first term, it was like everyone had pretty much changed their mind. And there was like an atmosphere that I felt in my year group of, there's so much more out there, and why would you want to be a puppet? And when we could direct our own work and make like this feeling of wanting to change the world, which is a beautiful feeling, and it's such a lovely liberal uni, but it made me go even more like, I'm not going to tell anyone that I still really, really want to be an actor. And that went on for all my 3 years. And actually what I found, like, it was a great test in every time there was an opportunity to pick acting, to pick performance, I always picked it ultimately. And then when I was in third year, I did those castings. And I think what I kind of look back and can see from it is that I learned so much about myself at uni, but I hadn't found my voice as an actor. And like, I remember being asked things like, what do you think you could be in? What can you see yourself doing? And I didn't really know. I was kind of just going, drama, comedy, like, but if that hadn't happened, I wouldn't have ended up going to New York and doing a summer of screen acting there. And that led me to go, I actually want to explore the film world more and maybe find a course that feels more collaborative and learn more about camera work and screenwriting and stuff. And that's how I found the course that I then went on to do. So
it's amazing that you started in, going to theatre school for confidence building, ending up loving theatre, then not going to drama school, but going to a university and studying all aspects of drama, finding that you really did love the performance, leading you on to going to New York and realizing film was the performance side of things that you really loved. And then your career from there, you've been, like I mentioned earlier, feature films, short films, television series, a whole series or one parter, or, you've done theatre. It's just amazing that it's led from that shy child has led all the way up to a career in theatre and TV and film. And even less than 10 years ago you were ripping up drama school audition forms. It's just amazing. So before we go, I would like to play Have You Ever? Your Never Have I Ever round. I'm going to give you about 4 or 5 questions. So never have I ever had to learn a new accent for a self-tape or audition?
I have.
What have you had to learn?
Irish, Lake District.
What is a Lake District accent?
It's like it's kind of Cumbrian. It's like
Wow.
I've had more northern ones recently, which has been really nice because I've learned more about the differences rather than just general northern.
Yeah.
But I'd say the one that caused the most panic for me was Irish. I normally I'll pick one female as inspiration to listen to, and I'll maybe have an accent session if I feel like I need it. I've got a couple of people
amazing.
that I'll email if I need to.
Have you ever sacrificed anything to be at an audition?
I must have. I mean, I definitely just things like, it's just small things like a date that you've dedicated to being with a partner that you've not been able to spend quality time with, and then that tape coming in and it all kind of, but I've not had the situation yet of I've missed a hen party for, actually it was for a film festival, not an audition.
Just because we miss so much, don't we?
So much, definitely. And what for someone that doesn't work in this industry, when you're like their one friend that's a performer, what a crazy thing to bring your head around, to the idea that your friend might just go, sorry, I'm going on tour, I can't come to your wedding.
I know. Work is few and far between, and it always happens. Like, I remember I had my dream audition was on the same day as another audition. This always happens at the same time. Have you ever been late for an audition?
No.
She's on it. She's an early bird.
I was once late for an agency audition, actually. It was very flustering. I was just on the train, trying to calm down, and it meant that I missed the stop. And the second that this was a tube, and the second one I needed to get was like a train where if you miss the first one, the next one's coming in half an hour. And then it got delayed. So I was so late. I was like an hour late, and it meant they just kept going and saw the next person, but I just went in so flustered.
It's horrible. I think that's one of my worst feelings ever. Have you ever, my final question for this section, have you ever gone into an audition I am so wrong for this part, but I'm just going to audition anyway? Or are you at a point where you're like, no, I only audition for things that I can see myself in?
If it's I'll take, I still like to put myself in positions that make me feel kind of uncomfortable or new. Mm-hmm. So for example, I got a musical theatre audition that I was just like, there's no way I'm going to get this job. But it was such a amazing experience to be able to go through that process that I still 100% took it and wanted to do it. It's more I think saying it's not about not being right or being right for me. It's more because also sometimes that can surprise you and you don't know whether there's a change they're wanting to make that means you could suddenly be right for it, So a lot of the time, I mean, who are we to say that we're not right for it? But I've lost my train of thought now. I think it's now become more about knowing my worth and say not going for things that I feel more like you're just asking me to be a naked glorified extra, basically.
I remember you messaging me once because I was at Pineapple auditioning for Paris Disney parade characters, and I'm so wrong for that, so wrong, and it just ruined my day, ruined my week probably back then, because I was quite dramatic as a teen. I still am, but I was so wrong for it, and then I just felt not capable of doing my what I love to do. So I think it's really important to go for things that you're know your worth and go for things that are right for you. And before we go, can you describe to me, it may have happened or it may not, a perfect audition setup?
Scripts already sent to me. If it's TV or film, they've sent me the script, or they've sent me the episodes, and I get to go in, and this happens so rarely. I remember I did an audition just before the pandemic, and it was a first audition, and I was in there for 45 minutes, which for TV is doesn't have doesn't really happen. But it was such a lovely experience because it just like I got to play with her, like we were just playing. And that's my favorite because you feel less like a product and they're trying to find the one to sell. It feels collaborative. You feel respected. You're being asked for your opinion and your collaborative process and your ideas. And yeah, that's my favorite kind of audition.
Amazing. So do you have any advice before you go, Afsaneh, about, you've given us loads. I'm taking all your rituals.
Go for it.
Do you have any advice before we go that you can pass on to the listeners?
Something I've been thinking about a lot over the last couple of years that's really helped my kind of mental space with being a professional actor is that we have so little control as actors, and sometimes it like that can feel really stabilizing. And I've kind of just been, reframing that as reminding myself and reaffirming actually how I have control. So I am allowed to say no to things. For example, sometimes it can feel like you're just so powerless that you can get a script through and you're finding how to kind of be great at it and how to get the job, rather than like, it's a two-way street and know your worth. So when you're getting a script through, I'm really looking at the project and going, is this something I believe in? Is this something I want to put my faith to? It's not just about how much I can get them to want me, And I think in a way this can kind of sound perhaps negative, but it doesn't. Like, for me, it feels really actually quite liberating. But I think so many stars have to align. Like, this is how I always think about it. So many stars have to align for you to finally get that offer. And when you think about how many steps, how many stars there are, and like the bigger the part is, the more there are like of these little steps that you don't even know about. So many people have to say yes for it to finally get to you. And the only ones that all we can do is let go of the ones that have nothing to do with us. It's not our problem, and just focus on the ones that we can control. And I think that's really just helped me kind of claim my power back. I like to think of it more like a game now. It's like a game, because sometimes it just feels so ridiculous. It feels so crazy that we give up so much, we sacrifice so much to do this. And it's like, I like to think of it like a game, and I'm choosing to play the game, and I'm in control of the remote control.
Amen, sister. Oh, I love that. The sun is shining on her face, by the way, and she's just looking like this goddess with all the knowledge and advice. I love that. That is so true, because you're so right. We just think it's just one decision. Do I get the part or not? But you're right. There are so many external factors that we don't have any control over. And that is so true.
And they have nothing to do with your talent. Absolutely nothing. They have nothing to do with your talent. And they have nothing to do with how hard you work, which is why it's such a, it can be such a frustrating profession, because you don't you do a master's and then you get an entry-level job, and then you work your way up to senior. It's like so frantic and unpredictable. It's not something where you can see any kind of linear path. Yeah.
No fast track, is there?
There's no. But I'd say a big one of those stars is luck, place and time. And that's when it can randomly, get these stories of it being, it feels like someone skipped 1,000 steps to suddenly land this huge thing. But there's just nothing, that's not something you can control. So you just got to do you and remember why you love it.
So true. So true. Affie, thank you so much for your time today. It's been so lovely chatting to you. I've learned things about you that I had no idea about. And I thought, out of all my guests, I'm going to know all of Affie's answers because we've known each other for so long. But thank you so much for your time. Please, could you just do the outro for me, just to sign us off, and just say for me, thanks, that's all for today. Even though you already say it in the intro, lovely, I've added you in there.
Thanks. That's all for today. We'll let you know either way tomorrow. No, we won't. We'll forget it. You'll definitely hear back either way.